Eric here, product specialist for TOA Electronics, and your host to the podcast Sound Supply, releasing every single week. That's on Monday evenings, giving you guys the most up-to-date information on commercial AV. You can find us on YouTube, Anchor, LinkedIn, and even our Facebook page. Excuse me, guys. Check us out. Thank you for attending. Stay tuned. We're about to get started. And welcome to another webinar. I'm your host, Eric Huber, product specialist here at TOA, and joined by my awesome dog, Peb, in the background. Don't mind him. He's a good guy. All right, guys. So this webinar is a special one. We're going to be going over the normalized workplace and what that means and what it means to sound good once you guys get back into the office, or once your clients are getting back into the workforce, and you want to make sure they're set up smoothly to make sure they're sounding their best, not only for themselves, but for their customers as well. All right, so a question we're going to be posing today is, how do we make sure audio systems are optimized to avoid mistakes when we reopen the office? So, you know, we don't want to go in there and just drop gear and get out. You know, we want to make sure that they're set up correctly, and we want to make sure we are preventing long issues or issues that may or may not happen down the road before they happen. And, you know, it just saves time. It saves money. It just makes everybody's life easier. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing as we get back into the workforce, as our clients get back into the workforce, and that they're set up optimally and ready to succeed in today's environment. Once again, guys, my name is Eric. If you don't know me, I do host podcasts as well as these webinars. I'm a product specialist at TOA, kind of like the jack of all trades, as they say, but we're bringing this information to you guys, as always, based on your feedback, and we appreciate that. And then we're going to have our panelists come in, which is going to be our standard format. We're going to have Jim come in, the legendary Jim McGunniess, and Mr. Dan Shore. Dan is head of engineering. And we're going to have a discussion followed by a Q&A on all these points that we're going to bring up during this webinar. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be casual. It's going to be laid back. And we're going to give you guys the best information you can possibly get based on this discussion. All right. Also, something new we're trying. We want to thank you guys, number one, for being here. And as a special gift to you guys, we want to give you early access to a new research piece that we have coming up. And it's going to be, the title of the piece is going to be 10 questions you should ask to make sure your office audio system is optimized when returning to the workforce. So these are going to be 10 generalized questions that only you're going to have access to based on your attendance today. We're going to make sure we follow up with you guys via email. And so that's gonna come after the webinar. Thanks again for being here as always. And that's our special gift to you. So great information, kind of direct information under the radar, exclusive information that we're going to share with you guys. And we want to make sure that you guys leave here today with some key takeaways. So, the title of this webinar, returning to the normalized workspace or workplace and sounding good. And we want to stress sounding good here, as the main point. So we want to make sure you guys leave today with that understanding of how important it is to make sure that the appropriate system is implemented and the correct measures are taken to avoid anything down the road. All right, so the key audio systems that we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to bring some products in our lineup. We're going to be talking about the F-Series speakers, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. That's our full-range two-way units that sound fantastic, great for BGM, live performance, things like that, where you really need good quality audio for music applications. PA systems with amplification. This could be a variety of different applications. It could be a BGM. It could be a retail application. It could be a stage application, gymnasium, per audio, whatever that may be. Our ZM remotes, which are great units for our 9000 series, as well as some of our digital mixers, and some box speakers. So we're going to bring in a variety of products. We're going to discuss them. One other one that I forgot to mention is our Pendant speakers, a very popular speaker for under our interior design lineup to be able to blend in modernly to an atmosphere and look good and also sound good and provide you guys with that coverage that you definitely need going down the road there. And then, of course, bringing it back into the topic, we're going to integrate these products and we're going to discuss, what types of issues could happen or have happened when you're away from the office. So when we're away or when we've been away, like for us, it's been a year almost, we're in and out. We're actually in a move, which is a great example because think about how many things are being moved around, and we got integrators and contractors in our office playing with cabling. Things are touching, you guys already know where I'm going with this. There could be so many issues. And there's probably, now that I think about it, there's probably a lot of businesses and offices that are either downscaling, maybe most of their clientele are working from home, and they're just, using these flex type offices, or maybe they're upgrading. In our case, we're in a bigger location, and the office has to be set up for AV. And this is just an office scenario. I'm just giving you guys an example. There could be so many different types of scenarios. So once again, we want to make sure we know about what could happen, what might be there unbeknownst to us, and then how we can prevent those in the future. All right, so let's bring in our panelist. Again, Dan Shore, head of engineering for TOA, and Jim McGunniess, my colleague, my go-to. And then let's dive into it. Let's get started. Hopefully you guys are ready to rock and roll. And we want to bring in our first unit of question. I actually didn't mention this on the intro, but it's a unit that we love here at TOA. It's our infamous impedance meter, the ZM104A, excuse me. And we're going to bring Dan in to talk about it real quick. The ZM104A is a tool that we cannot stress enough to integrators out there that are looking for speaker line level issues. The number one cause of failure in our amplifiers, and this is going back, is people just dropping gear in before actually finding the cause of what that issue could be. So Dan, let's bring you in here. When you're testing for systems, or when you're testing current systems, or maybe when you're conversing with somebody that is testing a system, what kind of errors and mistakes are you or the integrator actually looking for? And also, what kind of tests can you use our ZM104A, or what kind of different measures can you use the ZM104A in to identify errors? Dan?
So if you're a new integrator and you don't own an impedance bridge, go out and get yourself an impedance bridge. The TOA ZM104 is one of the most valuable tools you'll find in your toolkit. Anytime you go on site and there's an issue with the amp overheating or there's a red clip light on the amplifier, one of the things you're going to look at is how much load have they put on that amplifier? And you're not going to go around and open the ceiling and check every tap on the speakers. The easiest way to do that, and the only way to do that really effectively, is with an impedance bridge. You'll remove the speaker line from the amplifier, connect the positive and negative test leads, select the range, and then read the impedance and turn it into watts to determine what the load is. If you've got a 30-watt amplifier with a 60-watt load, or the impedance that would give you a 60-watt load, you're going to overload that amplifier, you're going to shorten its life if it isn't dead already. So that's the most important thing you do. You can replace that amplifier if necessary. You should never go into a troubleshooting scenario where you don't have one of those in your pocket, because you will want to know what the speaker impedance load is. Now, the ZM104 can also be used for a couple of other applications. It puts out a 2-volt square wave, and you can use that as a signal generator. You can use it to determine if your balanced circuit is actually a balanced circuit. We can go into that in detail at some other time. You can determine whether or not you have signal on both sides of your circuit. It's a very valuable tool. So that's my tool number one for going in and diagnosing and fixing your system that may have not been used for over a year.
Dan, thank you so much. As you guys can see, the ZM104A is it's a Swiss Army knife when it comes to troubleshooting audio. If you work in the field and you work with audio, you need an impedance meter. ZM104A is a fantastic unit. All right, let's bring Jim in. We'll get Jim's perspective here. Jim deals with more direct end user calls or integration calls out there in the field, as do I. Jim, what is your perspective on this one? And we've been away from the office for almost a year now, like I just talked about. Are you seeing, or what kind of mistakes are you seeing that possibly were overlooked before the pandemic? So, are you seeing an increase, during this time frame where guys are going back in? Because I know I have. I've been getting calls where, you ask them what's going on, and they say, "Well, this business has been out for a year. They just got back. Nothing's working." I'm sure you've gotten that call. What have you seen before, and what's the best way to rectify those types of situations? Jim?
Hey, Eric, thanks for that. From a contractor standpoint, we want to, make sure that we have the right focus on when we enter a job to come back, from our hiatus due to COVID-19. So using our ZM104A tool is very important, because besides acting like an ohm meter, it's the important tool you need to check the load on existing systems. Now, of course, during our pandemic, people come into the office, they leave the office. If they're a tech group, they may be borrowing equipment from time to time. So systems get kind of ripped apart, put back together, and they're not in their normal state like they would be from a day-to-day workplace. So you come in, things get moved around, changed around, and so coming back to the workplace as a regular day in, day out thing, we want to reestablish proper audio in the system. So using our ZM tool will help you do that, make sure things look correct on the loads to all the amplifiers. But then in addition to that, we want to make sure that things are reconnected correctly. What if somebody borrowed a piece of equipment, had to bring it home, type of thing. And then they bring it back. We got to restore it back to the right place. We got to make sure that levels are done properly, because otherwise, other things can happen, like amplifiers can blow up, right? Because, you get the wrong loads on them. And so problems can occur, or when somebody pushes a button, they expect it, to work, it doesn't work. So there are a bunch of different things. So having your standard tools in your box is important, but an impedance meter is high on our list for distributed audio. Of course, a standard DVM or ohm meter, and some other tools that you typically would have, maybe continuity testers and your standard hand tools, etc. But please keep in mind that we want to make sure that all things are connected. Don't check just one thing. Check the system, because you don't know what has been changed over time. You haven't been living in your normal space. So we got to restore that space back, and then maybe consider any changes or updates that you want to do or that management wants to do at this point in time, because it'd be a great time to do that.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. You guys just nailed it on the hay there. We want to make sure that the people that are using our products, our customers, our clients, know where to look and know where to find those issues. And, if you don't take the time to look into it and use the tools at hand, like the ZM104A, you're gonna be shooting yourself in the foot. And down the road, you're gonna be getting a lot more phone calls. You're gonna be visiting the site multiple times. There's gonna be time, money. You know where I'm going with this. The list goes on and on. So please, when you're setting up systems, when you're troubleshooting a system, take into account the history of the issue. For example, like the pandemic, clientels or clients were gone for a year, and anything could happen during that time frame. So make sure going into it what to exactly look for. All right. Now that we've established possible problems in different workplace scenarios, let's go over a few key TOA products and their best applications to solve those inefficiencies. So I mentioned our F-Series units. I'm a huge fan of these speakers. I love them. They sound fantastic, especially when it comes to full range audio. You need that good quality music type applications that require that high quality. Let's bring Dan in here, who does a lot of projects with the F-Series. Dan, what are the major advantages when it comes to the F-Series? And when is this product used over other TOA speakers? Dan?
If you're going on site, you've been called on site by somebody that has a problem. And one of the problems that we run into with background music systems, paging systems, noise masking systems is coverage. Lack of coverage in an area, it's too hot over here, it's not hot enough over here. But by far the most frequent one is lack of coverage in certain areas. Now, with a ceiling speaker system, the building usually gets set up with the least possible number of speakers that the electrical contractor can morally put in there. So when you go back in, you're going to want a speaker that gives you the widest possible dispersion to cover some of these gaps. Rather than putting in additional speakers, you can probably just swap them out. If you have a 10-foot ceiling and you've got 30-foot spacing, you're going to need a wider dispersion speaker and possibly more speakers. So the solution for that is TOA's F-Series ceiling speakers. The F-Series ceiling speakers are built to provide wide dispersion as possible at all frequencies. You'll see that our ceiling speakers have a little bit of a cone built in to the grill on the speaker, and that's because we have a high frequency element that extends below the motorboard of the speaker to provide additional wide coverage. It's a great way to get that extra coverage that you need at not too much bucks and very simply.
All right, Jim. I don't want to leave you out, Jim. This has been the Dan show from now going forward. But Jim, let's bring you back in. Jim, let's talk about some of our other interior design products are very, classy, modernized looking units that sound fantastic. the H series, in particular the H1, H2, H3 architectural units and Pendant style systems. We know these speakers, not only do they sound fantastic, but they're designed to be installed in modern applications to look fantastic, meaning that they blend in with the environment very well. They fit the aesthetic. Our Pendant speakers are very popular when it comes to that. And Jim, let's walk through some potential applications where the H1, H2, H3, or our Pendant style speakers would be used. Jim?
Well, thanks for that again, Eric. From the contractor standpoint, our H1, H2, H3 speaker systems for what we call our architectural products, they cover a gambit of applications, and they're a smoother look in some of the models, a lower profile. So there's not a big visual to the speaker, yet they still provide high-end performance because all of them are two-way speakers. So they all have tweeter, woofer, combinations built in. I just did an install recently, not personally, but set up an install with a contractor where they're going to use our H1 series speaker. And in this case, it's going to be a ceiling mount because it's a very custom meeting room, and they didn't want to have your standard box speakers or something hanging. So these will be surface mount, and they only stand about 1 3/4 inches off the surface. So they kind of blend into the background. They had kind of a custom ceiling, and around the edges were standard drywall. So they wanted to mount somewhere in there, and this gave them the opportunity to get audio into the room with very low profile. So very smooth looking. Our H2 is kind of a round box, typically is used on a wall, and it pivots left and right so that you can direct the sound should you need to push it one way or another, but typically down. And then our H3 is one where we have dual woofers, so that one automatically goes in both directions, like let's say in a hallway or something, plus tweeter. So you get really good response from these speakers. That, in along with our previous question of using the ZM tool, you can make sure that your systems are properly set up going into a new install or an existing install, because the ZM tool will tell you whether you're in the right range of what an amplifier should be running at. Because if somebody accidentally puts, let's say, a regular 8-ohm, 4-ohm speaker on a 70-volt system, you're suddenly going to ask, let's say, a 60-watt amplifier to put out 10 times what it can do. So it's not going to like that very much. So the ZM tool will help you do that. Our speakers are all 70 volt. We do have a low impedance option. So the biggest thing when you're doing the install is to make sure that you have them set in the 70 volt range, unless you're doing a special custom install of individual channel low impedance. But normally we're doing distributed audio, so that's 70 volts. And so you want to make sure you're on the proper tabs for that. But other than that, these speakers go in very smoothly, and they give you very good performance, low profile, or a more aesthetic look for many applications for the custom architecture contractor application.
All right, Dan, back to you. Let's bring in our bread and butter here, our PA amplifier systems. Standardized PA systems when it comes to an amplification unit. Could be a mixer amp, could be a power amp, and some speakers. We'll bring in the example of the box speaker, the BS1034, and maybe you can mention an amplifier. What would be the strongest applications for our amps, our mixer amps, and why are they so popular in those types of applications? Dan?
TOA has many speakers that fit in many different situations. We have speakers that are slim and fit into narrow spaces. For example, we have a 1034 speaker that's about yay big and about yay thin, that fits wonderfully on surfaces. A great example of use for that is a walkway between buildings. We've done that many times. When choosing a loudspeaker, we're happy to help you. If you need a little bit of extra efficiency, we can match a speaker to your application. For example, you don't want to have a speaker that's 85 dB at 1 watt where you need to put out a lot of audio with a minimum amount of power. So let us help you match that. TOA amplifiers are built to provide you with exceptional durability and strength. TOA amplifiers are built to give you exceptional durability and length of service. Our amplifier failure rate is second to none in the industry. So when you use our amplifiers, you can be sure that they're going to last for 10, 15, 20 years. Looking forward, when you install our speakers and our amplifiers, you can be certain that with your experience and our product, we can provide a solution for your clients that will be satisfactory for years to come.
All right, guys, Dan and Jim, as always, excellent, excellent stuff. And just to sum it up, overall, guys, we want to just make sure that your clientele is set up going forward. And we want to prevent those post phone calls that could have been taken care of many months or even many years prior, before that. And also, we want to make sure, if it, let's say that you've took all those steps, you've made sure that, you've prevented, you can't future proof anything. Anything could happen, just like what just currently happened in today's world. But let's say that, an issue were to occur, you want to know where to look. And when it comes to our amplifiers and overhead speakers or 70-volt systems, we mentioned the ZM104A. That's just one step in the right direction to make sure the customer is taken care of as fast as possible. And then again, if it's a new installation, we want to make sure that they're set up in the correct way because, as customers return to the normalized workplace, their needs are going to change. Their needs have changed. Systems have changed. You got to take these all into account, and we want to make sure that they just sound their best. If they're using it internally, we want to make sure communication is clear and fluid. If they're speaking to their customers, or if it's a system being used to communicate to their customers, you want to make sure that's also operating efficiently. And all in all, we just want to make sure that you guys and your clients are set up to the best of their ability, and the gear that they're using is the gear that they need to be using, number one, and that they sound fantastic. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, thanks again. We're going to get into our infamous live Q&A with Jim, Dan, and myself. I know you guys have questions. Let's get to them. This is more of there's a lot that we covered here. So, ask us anything you want, and we'll be happy to answer those. Any concerns, maybe getting back into those environments. We talk to people daily about these things, Jim and myself, as well as Dan. So please don't be shy. Ask us anything you want, and we'll be back to answer those in just a moment. Thanks, guys. All right. Let's get this going. Hopefully you guys have plenty of questions for us. Just a quick note, Dan is having some technical difficulties on video, but he is available for audio chat and any questions that you guys might have regarding any of the products that we spoke about. And let's dig into it, guys. Thanks again for attending. Thanks for being here. We have many, many people in here. Awesome. Good to see familiar faces. All right, first question up, Jim. Since you're live on video, we'll get you first. Jim, any changes? This is from one of our attendees. Any changes or potential problems coming up with clients preparing to return to the workplace? Maybe that you've experienced, maybe from phone calls, emails. Can you think of a typical scenario that could be a concern for them, and what kind of advice that they were looking for, and maybe what kind of advice that we provided?
Well, as we went over in the seminar here today, we have a lot of places coming back. Restaurants would be a perfect example, right? Because there's
Right.
lots of audio going on there, typically for background music, for, paging, Smith party or two coming in, whatever. And, these systems have been down a lot since most of indoor dining has been, off limits. So now that everything's coming back, there'll be issues with some equipment that's out there. And we need to check, what's going on with that stuff, and has anybody, done anything to those systems, while the restaurant's been offline, so to speak. Sometimes you get skeletal staff coming in, and they'll turn on the music in whatever way they can get it going, and then when the regular staff comes back into work, they start flipping things on the way they remember, and things don't work so good. So my general suggestion is, you come in, check the systems, see if anything has been changed, taken out, put back, whatever. If everything looks approximately the same, you'd probably be fairly certain that if you power up, you can check it normally. But if anything's been changed, it'd be a good idea to check connections, check wiring that's been taken off, put back, speaker loads, whatever, just to be sure.
Yeah, I'm getting well, not so much now, but I was getting a lot of calls. Guys would get in there and they'd say, this they were not open for business for 6 months or 8 months or whatever that might be, and nothing's working. And they immediately call us, and we try to figure it out. But yeah, anything can happen during those times. Absolutely. What about?
I get calls on that as well, because our name's on the front of the equipment, so who do they call? They call us.
Yeah. And that brings us to, I'm going to bring this to Dan. Dan, can you hear us? I know you're having some issues.
I can. Can you hear me?
Right. I can hear you. Perfect. Can you just quickly walk us through, and you can use the scenario of an integrator getting to a restaurant, since we're talking about restaurants. They're having an amplifier issue. Can you walk us through the process of a simple test using the ZM104A at a location like that?
Sure. We have a lot of restaurant applications that use our BG amplifiers, and the technician will usually go out, and the first thing that I suggest that they do is take a look at the amplifier and see if it's been coated with grease, because that sometimes happens. Maintenance isn't always carefully carried out in restaurants. That's a good place to start. When you turn the system on, are there any red lights going on? If there are, that layer of grease may be the issue. If it's not the issue, then go and see if maybe the loudspeakers have been disconnected. The next step is to take that ZM1, pull the lines off the back of the amplifier, and double check to see what the impedance is. If you don't find anything wrong and the amplifier has been in there for 25 years covered with grease, you may give us a call and see if it's time for a new amplifier.
There it is. That easy. Real quick, I want to talk about change in these workplaces or restaurants, retail, whatever that may be. This is to either of you guys. Do you guys see a potential change in changing the equipment they're using to better optimize their current workforce and customers? Maybe that's either adding or removing something current. So kind of like an integrator going on site or a rep or whatever, and restructuring or re-optimizing the environment based on the current situation. Do you guys see a trend going in that direction?
Well, I mean, just like we've moved during this pandemic to another spot in the building, we've ripped apart our equipment and we're in a new, nicer, bigger place. We have more conference areas, et cetera. So, in our own world, we have to think about, how are we going to be doing conferencing? So we're going to deploy more Lanubios to take care of things like that. No difference for our clients out in the real world. Some of them have moved, some of them have changed to different locations. So, this opportune time really to consider what do you want to do going forward as opposed to, just bringing over maybe something that's existing. Is it time to upgrade? Is it time to consider other options? Do you want Ethernet access to your system? We have a lot of product that can do that, things of that nature. So, I mean, it's a call shot for the client, of course, as to what they want to do. But now's a perfect time, really, because businesses are starting up. I was out over the weekend myself, and I could see, where business is picking up in a lot of different areas. So
Yeah,
it's a
it
perfect.
is. Yeah, things are escalating. The sun's out. I mean, it's 90 degrees here in New Jersey. It's beautiful. People want to get out, and they need the proper equipment. They got to make sure that stuff's operating. All right, guys. Any closing thoughts from either Dan or Jim, just based on the topics that we touched on that we maybe didn't mention that you guys want to discuss real quick?
I'll take it. I think that we're seeing a lot of facilities managers and companies that have taken advantage of this downtime to assess issues, and as things ramp up, they are making changes that have been needed for a while. So we're seeing great growth in sales and use of our equipment, and we're happy to help out. If there are any questions, please let us know.
Awesome. Dan, good points. That downtime that we had, yes, I did see a spike in people restructuring, reoptimizing, using our gear differently or adding the systems, but really figuring out what they need going forward. And with our equipment, it's fully expandable, it's fully modular, it's tailored to the specific environment. And like you said, Dan, we're here to help to make sure you guys get the right gear, for the right job at the right time. We can't predict the future, but we can be prepared as best as we possibly can. So we got to keep that in mind. One last question here in the chat that I'm getting. Let's see here. This could go to either one of you guys. When systems are not working after long periods of non-use, it's a great reason for our integrators to introduce, self-service contracts. I'm trying to minimize this as possible. Summarize this. Do you guys see the question in the chat here from one of the attendees?
Let me take a look.
Take a look. In terms of service contracts for end user clients.
Sure. Let me jump in real quick on one of the things that we're seeing. We have two large supermarket chains that have done extensive renovations to their paging systems, and now they've decided that they want to monitor the equipment that's there, and they have settled on our A800D series amplifiers, where they can upload firmware, connect via a SIP-based phone system, and download logs and check how the amplifier is functioning remotely rather than rolling trucks.
Yes, that was it. Yep, great, Dan. Great example. Big application. They're utilizing our brand new A800D series for complete remote maintenance, obviously up to a certain point, but that's a perfect example of where we're heading. Remote maintenance, and we've been talking about this topic for a lot over the last couple of months during the webinars or podcasts. It's so simple now to be able to log in, see the signal path from A to B, and troubleshoot or make changes based on the atmosphere of the clientele. You can do so much, once you're connected, and you can maintain a system over the web or over the net or through a network. It's truly awesome, and that's the direction that we're actually going in, which is all good news. Jim, you want to add?
Eric, that we have a number of different products, including our new BG amplifiers in A800 series, but some of our mixers, our EQ units, all have Ethernet and Nubio for our soundbar, and so we can help with that, and clients can self-monitor on some of those pieces as well. We offer logging into somebody's system if they need help. One of the things that we provide out of PSG. And of course, demos. If anybody's looking to see some of this new gear, please send over an email over to marketing at toaelectronics.com, and we can help you take care of that. As well as we provide a free design service, so free design at toaelectronics.com. All usable, very, very powerful tools that you can use to bring systems up to date, new systems, fix old systems. We kind of cover the gamut.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, again, guys, we're getting back to normal as well. We are fully set up for demos. If you guys need any demos of any of this gear, like the 800D series, we can demo that via GUI. You can see everything in real time. We can show you the unit using Zoom or any virtual application of your choice, and we'll be happy to do that. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dan. As always, much appreciated. Thanks, guys. Guys, next week, by the way, we are doing next month. Thanks, Dan. Next month, we're doing part 2 of this webinar, and we want to see you there. It's going to be focusing on some of our products that can be used for social. Well, obviously, social distancing is a huge factor here. We're going to dig into our Meeting I/O series that was briefly mentioned here, Lenubio AM1 conferencing series, and those are designed for our huddle rooms, conference solutions, any of the more popular applications out there for remote conferencing. We'll dig into those. That's going to be part 2 of this webinar coming up next month. Also, don't forget, we're doing podcasts every single week based on your feedback. We appreciate everything. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. We will see you next month. Make sure you sign up for that. As always, if you have any questions for myself, Dan, or Jim, shoot us an email. We'll be happy to get back out there for you guys. And stick around for just another moment. We got a quick little treat with some music. So just stay tuned. Guys, we'll see you next month. Be good and be well. Jim and Dan, take care.
Thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. When the morning comes and we see what we've become, in the cold light of day we're a flame in the wind, not the fire that we begun. Every argument, every word we can't take back, 'cause with all that has happened, I think that we both know the way that the story ends. Then only for a minute I want to change my mind, 'cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, but no, that means I'll have to leave. No, that means I'll have to leave. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. When the evening falls and I'm left there with my thoughts, and the image of you being with someone else, well, it's eating me up inside. But we ran our course, we pretended we're okay. Now if we jump together, at least we can swim far away from the wreck we made. Then only for a minute I want to change my mind, 'cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, but no, that means I'll have to leave. No, that means I'll have to leave. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. So I'll go. I will go. So I'll go. I will go. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. Even though I might not like this, I think that you'll be happier. I want you to be happier.